The walnut has been cultivated for thousands of years, but its actual discovery remains a mystery. Some of the earliest evidence of the walnut comes from the region of Persia in 7th century BC. Back then, royalty had dibs on this nut, and commoners were forbidden to eat it. Thankfully, that's ancient history. Today, the walnut is mass-produced to meet a global demand. It starts in an orchard like this one in California. Walnuts take 5 years to grow, and they emerge shrouded in protective husks. Using mechanical shakers and sweepers, workers harvest the walnuts. Once the husks have been peeled off, it's over to the receiving pit at the processing plant. This machine separates out any rocks or sticks, then drops the walnuts into a conveyor. At the end of the line, the nuts spiral off and land softly in cooling bays below. There are 8 bays that hold over 1,300 tons of walnuts. The walnuts are funneled into these sealed chambers for fumigation to eliminate insects. After 28 hours, they're on the move once again. They fall between rollers. The gaps between these rollers are tapered to allow the small, medium, and large nuts to fall into separate lanes. This sorting system will allow them to be cracked by machines geared to specific nut sizes. These large walnuts head up a conveyor called the cracker belt. At the top, they enter the cracker. It's a revolving machine with pistons, one for each walnut. The technician activates the pistons to press against the nuts. The pistons apply a precise amount of pressure to crack the shells without damaging the nuts inside. The nut cracking has been slowed for our camera, but in reality, this is a high-speed operation. The nuts, shells and all, fall onto a conveyor. The pistons have cracked between 80 and 90% of the walnuts. To capture the rest, the whole pile shakes its way towards a second group of sizing rollers. The smaller pieces drop through the gaps and go for further processing. The larger ones continue on to a machine called a recracker. There, the nuts travel through slats in a revolving cylinder. Inside those slats are little knives that break up the whole nuts. After some of the larger shells have been removed, it's onto a giant sifter. The nuts and shells bounce on a shaking screen. The smaller bits fall through, and the larger ones remain on top. The holes in the screen become progressively larger to sort the pieces into 8 sizes, which differ by a fraction of a centimeter. The bigger, choicest walnuts fall into a separate chute. The smaller pieces will be used in baking, among other things. A high-speed belt sends nuts and shells flying through the air to allow a computerized camera to detect shell fragments and activate a system to blast them off the production line, leaving that prized kernel, the walnut half. An inspector removes any remaining shells or unacceptable nuts. Then the walnuts enter a vacuum chamber, which suctions away any last crumbs. They exit on a spiraling slide and land in a box. This packer portions out bulk product for the food industry. He removes nuts from the box until it reaches the correct weight. These walnuts are on their way to adding crunch and flavor to cookies, cakes, and other good stuff. The walnuts in this box have taken years to grow and a couple hours to process, but in the end, the wait is more than worth it.